everybody. So, looking at the title, you might be wondering, a guide to having fun while learning. Who is this kid? Why should I listen to him? So, before I start my actual presentation, let me just introduce myself. So, my name is Malhar. I'm turning 17 in about 16 days. I'm just about to finish grade 11 in overseas family school, finishing my first year of IB. My Twitter bio says that I am a full stack coder. I am an avid musician and a science enthusiast. So I've been programming since I was 11 years old, and I've attended several competitions or hackathons. One of them I came third in the second largest hackathon in Singapore held by NTU. I've done several projects such as running an education app and startup for about 6 months last year, as well as building a motion controlled robotic hand. I'm a certified trainer with Intel in electronics, and I enjoy reading artificial intelligence and machine learning papers online. I even ran the AI and machine learning club in my school, where we taught students about AI algorithms and how to implement them. Aside from that, I am a musician. I play 3 instruments, of which I play the drums, that I've led a band for the last 3 years. We actually won our battle of the bands recently, but I also learned to play the bass and the guitar by myself at home. I've organized other events, such as the first ever TEDx held in my school, TEDx Youth at OFS, which I organized last year, and I've also been elected as the vice president by the school body. Alright, but that's enough about me, so on with the presentation. So as many of you have heard, the IB isn't exactly the most fun curriculum. It is one of the most demanding courses out there and requires a lot of time and effort into doing it. Despite this, I still try to keep a happy and healthy life aside from IB. However, this is not the case for many students around the world. Living in the 21st century, we have an abundance of information, and it is very difficult to know what to do with it. Additionally, there are so many new available career options. There's so many to choose, so many paths to go on. Because of the several curriculums that have been employed by public schools and private schools, IB, AP, O-levels, A-levels, they're extremely demanding to prepare students for the various challenges that they will face in this life of information. This has actually caused immensely high amounts of stress, anxiety, insomnia, and even depression among teenagers. On top of that, being a teenager was never a golden time for anybody. At this stage, the brain is developing, and it's difficult to manage this huge flow of emotions, keeping a level head and managing work. All of this has either caused students to neglect work and completely immerse themselves within their emotions and social endeavors, or neglect the latter and completely immerse themselves in their work. There's also the third type who tries to find the balance between the two, but actually ends up being unsatisfied in both fields. So this is the first problem that I've noticed. The second problem is actually with the education system itself. So I remember doing this course where this professor said, you don't teach a child for 12 years of their life about the materials that you make a baseball with, or the amount of force you put into hitting the baseball, the physics of its flight, and then after 12 years, hand them a baseball bat and ask them to play in a major league and win. You have to really give them the baseball and the bat and teach them to play the game. This quote really stuck with me because I feel like this is the way a lot of subjects such as maths and the sciences and the arts are being taught in schools. They're taught in a very rote learning sort of way. I love maths personally, but I have personally explored numerous fields beyond my coursework, but I can't say the same for a lot of my peers. Maths has almost become this thing for people to hate. It has been drilled into society's brains by almost everybody. People are inadvertently afraid of the mathematics, and as a result, their brain has been conditioned to think that it is unable to do maths. I believe that the human brain is capable of doing anything, and that there is no such thing as one person being gifted over another. However, our education system has made it such that students develop an aversion to certain subjects such as maths. For instance, in maths, we learn all these tools such as calculus, trigonometry, but we actually never delve deeper and actually see the true, real beauty of the subject and how our world revolves around it. And this argument can be made for many subjects being taught. Parallel thinking is almost obsolete. As a result, students see subjects as chores rather than enriching activities to expand and grow upon. And hence, my topic today to address these two problems is to give you sort of a guide on how you can have fun while you learn. So the first step is to maintain a sufficient balance between your school activities and your extracurriculars. So this step is actually crucial for you to have a positive outlook towards life. Don't spend all your time studying or spending 5 hours at a tuition center or sleeping at 2 a.m. to study before an exam. But don't neglect studying either. Don't spend all your time texting your friends or going out to meet them. Combine these activities and more, and you will lead a much happier life. One thing to actually kickstart this process, and I've told all my friends this, is to start exercising. So take up a sport, go for a run, go for a swim, go to the gym, whatever you feel like doing that actually keeps you active and keeps your body active. A regular form of physical activity has many positive mental and physical effects. Firstly, it helps circulate oxygen to the brain, which allows you to think more efficiently and a lot better. Because of this, you'll realize that you start doing quality work in a lot quicker time that actually frees up time to do other recreational activities. Secondly, it releases endorphins into your system, allowing you to keep a happy and positive outlook towards your education. Another thing to help is to take up a hobby, something that can help you relax in times of stress. For example, I picked up music to help me cope with stressful times. Whenever I feel like I'm being too burdened with work, I start playing the guitar or start playing the drums, and then it gets all better again. I also want to highlight that it's important to take breaks while you study. During this time, you can exercise or even do your hobby, something that keeps your brain active. Of course, I'm not ruling out the possibility of watching Netflix or YouTube or playing video games during this free time. I mean, we're children, we should have fun with time. We've got the rest of our lives to do all the other stuff. But it's important not to go overboard with it because it's very easy to really get addicted to it. And filling this time with a hobby that you enjoy can actually make the learning process a lot more fun. So step 2 is to broaden your horizons in the subject. The difference between learning and studying in itself is very, very important. Studying could refer to revising and relearning whatever has already been taught. But learning means broadening your horizons and really jumping deep into your subject. And this can be achieved in many possible ways. Let me give you an example of what I mean. In 2017, I developed a genuine love for maths. Before that, while I had always been good with math, I always saw it as a surface level subject. But around this time, I started watching a lot of math YouTubers, some people called 3 Blue 1 Brown, Black Pen, Red Pen, and I found a couple of friends who also watched the same people, and I got a community of people, like-minded people, who I could discuss and talk about these topics with. And this allowed me to see maths and science in a new, phenomenal way that really gave me a new perspective on the subject as a whole. And these channels and resources really allowed me to start watching many other kinds of videos and really boosted my interest in the subject. Similarly, if you have a subject that you're really interested in, rather than just reading and revising the book over and over again, go deeper on the internet and truly expand your knowledge in the subject. When you get the time, start reading more, start watching more, or start listening to more media in relation to that subject. This doesn't only have to be for the subjects that you like. It could also be the subjects that you're disinterested in. For example, if you aren't faring too well in French and hate that subject, start by listening to French podcasts and really immerse yourself in the language rather than just revising vocabulary over and over again. If you start struggling at physics, start by watching physics YouTubers like Veritasium, or start doing courses in these subjects. Spending a lot of time at a tuition center, for example, will only reinforce your hatred towards the subject. Enriching yourself by immersing yourself in the subject will really help to cultivate an interest for it, and that is the factor that can help bring your grade up. So my third and my final point is to set goals and to learn by doing. So you've probably heard this a million times, but setting goals is so crucial to having fun while you learn. It is important to set long-term goals over the course of months, but also short-term goals over the course of a day or a week, so that you can have an organized education life. This is particularly important when doing projects to expand your knowledge. I have a simple philosophy for doing projects: it's to learn by doing. For example, let's say you wanted to learn how to code an app. Yes, it is important to learn the basic syntax and the fundamentals of the language, but this can be achieved in a matter of weeks and a month. What next? After that, the best way to actually hone your skills is to start building the app, start doing the project. You'll come across so many mistakes, you'll come across errors. All you have to do for that is Google the error, find out the solution, and learn from that mistake. By doing it over and over again, you start to learn by your mistakes and you start to become much more proficient at the activity. So this is also concordant with that analogy of baseball that I gave before. You don't teach a child about the rules of baseball and then ask them to win a major league. No, you train them in the actual game. So during this process of doing the project, you start setting goals of what you want to accomplish and set out to finish them. Trust me, there's no better feeling than the feeling of accomplishment. So to conclude, I'd like to conclude my presentation with a quote by Swami Vivekananda. Freedom is not doing what you love. Freedom is loving what you do. And with that, I hope that my presentation today will help you love what you do. Thank you.